monkeys, how you doing? Damien Keys here. We are on show number 4 for the hashtag AskDamo show, a questions and answer show where you get to ask questions about music industry, social media and whatever else you want, and we will answer all the questions. So Melissa is here, as always. So we've got some questions. So how was your week?
Good, yes.
Good.
How was yours?
It's all right, yeah. Yesterday I drove for 4 hours for a meeting and then drove for 5 hours back again.
That doesn't sound good.
I had a lot of time with myself and my thoughts. I was going to start, because I was on my own, I was going to start vlogging. And I was like, I'm going to do a proper vlog. I'm going to get into vlogging, I'm going to spend more time vlogging. But like 4 hours in the car, A, who the hell wants to see that? And B, driving for 4 hours with me just wouldn't really work. So
it's a very long vlog.
So I paused the vlog idea, but yeah. So cool, so we've got some questions?
Oh, yeah, here we go.
All right.
So there's a band, Shape of the Sun, asking, what should musicians do to distribute their music better?
Good question. So when it comes to distributing a music, I'm assuming it means we've made the music, we've got it all recorded. How are we actually going to get it out there? And it's something I talk about quite a lot is how you are going to get this music out, because musicians are very, very good, and creatives are very good at creating music. They're very good at the fun bit, making something, and then after that what happens is it gets stored on a computer, or it gets stored on a YouTube, or it gets stored on a Facebook. And so I'm constantly saying you've got to actually spend as much time with the distribution as you do with actually the content creation, as it were. So I am not a songwriter, and it's not a strength, but I'm going to give you an example of if I'd written a book, for example, or if I had a single, what I would do. I think the biggest thing is actually getting out there. Now, what tends to happen with musicians is they tend to treat their fan base as one thing, one audience, as opposed to if it's 1,000 people, instead of 1,000, I would think of it as 1,001 peoples. And it's a tiny detail, but if I'm thinking of them as individual people, I'm not gonna just go onto my Facebook and say, here's our new single. Because if I stand up in a room of people and I make an announcement, people will pay attention and then just go about their business. Whereas if I individually approach everybody, I will get a lot more success with my distribution. So the first thing I would do is I would divide the band up into however many people there are, 3, 4, 5 people, and I would look at splitting it into bits of social media, email, text, phone calls, like literally any way that I can get in front of people and talk to people. So the first thing that I would do is I would ring you up and I would say, single, book, whatever it is, I've got a single, I've got a book, I've got whatever it is, will you buy it? It's 90p, it's 79p, it's free, it's whatever it is, will you please just do me a favor, will you buy it? Because if you see my Facebook status saying, will you buy my single, you might think, oh yeah, I'll do that. Chances are you'll ignore it, even if you are with me and you want to help and you'll go, yeah, I will. Chances are you'll forget at that moment because you'll be busy, because you'll be consuming that content when you're in bed or on the loo or watching TV or eating food. So you'll go, yeah, I will. And then you'll forget. So whereas if I ring you or even go to your house, but even if we're having this conversation, I just say, can you do me a favor? Can you just nip on there now and just download my single at 79p? You'll say, oh, of course I will. And off you go and you'll do it. So that one-to-one side, I would spend literally hours. I would go through my entire email database. I would go through my phone. I'd go through the guitarist's phone, the bass player's phone, the drummer's phone. I would talk to family members. And not only would I say, I need you to buy it, but I would also say, can you do me a favor? Can you go and find some more people who'd go and buy this for me? And you'll go, yeah, I'm sure I can find a couple more people, because you want that momentum. And the other thing is I'd set myself targets. So I'd say, I want to sell 1,000 copies. So I've got a book, I've written a book, I've got a book, I haven't, but I will. I've got my book and I say, right, I want to sell 1,000 copies myself. Every time I'm at a speaking event, if I'm at a gig or something, I'm constantly pushing it to people. So I think that distribution side is something that goes it's something that's thought of far too leniently when it comes to musicians. And I think what tends to happen is musicians are perhaps quite prepared to put all of the work into making something and then say, by the way, if anybody wants this, I'll stick it over there. Now that is not the way you sell things. You just don't sell things by the way. You sell things by saying, come on, I need you to do this. And not only am I going to tell you today, I'm going to tell you 5 times today, and I'm going to tell you tomorrow and the next day. And I'm not going to be, and this is a big, big thing, I'm not going to be ashamed that I'm telling you again and again and again. I'm going to make you feel awkward because you haven't bought it yet. I want it to be that way around because I want to sell stuff. And do you know what else annoys me is if and when friends and family say, yeah, but I don't have to pay for it. Like when you put a gig on, they go, yeah, but you can get me in free. And it's like, if you are my mates, this is the time I need you. When I'm Eric Clapton and everybody wants to give me free shit, then at that point, fair enough. I can just let people in and do stuff. But at this moment, I need you. I need those numbers on the door. I need those extra sales via my iTunes because I'm spending all of my money and all of my time on this. So I think when it comes to this stuff, you're either all in and you're all out. When it comes to freebies, you either say, we're going to make a single and give it to everyone and use it as a way of building the audience, or everyone pays, including my mum. I don't care. It's just one of those things. You pay for it, and more importantly, you need to pay for it because you're my mate or you're my family member. So distribution is, 3, 4, 5 hours a day, and it's individual, and it's just saying to people again, and once you've exhausted all the lists, you go back and start again. And you don't say, we've got a single out. You say, have you bought it yet? And then you go through them all again, and then you go back to the start again, and you say, honestly, I really need you to buy this. I've reminded you twice, I need you to buy it. That's distribution. It's basically just selling and pushing out there and saying to people, I need you to do this, or please do this, or it's available, go and buy it, however you want to say it, but just pushing it out there so you're actually getting the sales or the numbers or whatever you're trying to do.
I think as well, your friends and your family, they're going to want to be on your side as well. And I think if you ask them to support you, generally they will. Which, it's easy to be afraid of.
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay, awesome. So Christian is asking, how should I choose a music college or course? Good question.
Yeah, it is. And it's a very, very big question because there's so many variables. And this is a question that actually came up in the week. And I wanted to put this on because because of my background, it is a question that crops up probably 5 to 10 times a day with musicians asking me which college I would recommend. And it's very difficult because obviously I've got a lot of friends who work and teach in lots of different colleges. And I would I genuinely say that there are pros and cons of all of them, even to the point of geographical area. I did a talk not so long back at Bath Spa, and I was absolutely blown away by the students as well as the teachers. It was just a very special vibe, and Al was there, and we were both saying when we left, there was just this amazing respect and something I'd not seen in many colleges. But then you'd go and live in Bath as opposed to London or Brighton or Manchester or wherever you're from. So would I recommend that to everyone? It was just a place I loved. When it comes to places like ACM versus BIM, pros and cons. I mean, you get the massive conglomerate, which is now BIM with 5,000 students, which means it is very easy to get lost in amongst a lot of people. But at the same point, when you have got that much backing behind you, there are a lot of people sniffing around BIM because it is the biggest. So pros and cons. For me personally, I would weigh up your skill set, but more importantly for me, and this is going past what college, this goes deep into what you want to achieve as a musician. That to me is the most important question, because it even comes down to, should you go to music college? Because that to me is just a bigger question on which one you should go to, because I hate it when someone goes to music college because they've got nothing else to do, because it's just a waste of money, and all you're doing then is just going, it'll be fun, I'll get better as a musician. But you can get better as a musician from sitting in your house watching YouTube clips. You can build a career without a music college. However, there are some music colleges which will really, really help. So I think it really helps to go into a music college thinking, this is where I am, this is where I want to go. So in which case, which music college is going to be able to help me? Because they'll all tell you they will. But for me, small numbers does help. It does make a difference when you've got, you know, 10 guitarists in a college as opposed to 600. How can it not, you know? And if there's certain guitar teachers that you've seen at a certain college that you just think, I really, really, really want to be taught by those guys, are they going to teach you? Because that used to be a thing at BIM where we'd have Guthrie, for example, and we'd have 600 guitarists, and Guthrie was only in for a day, so he can only teach 80 of them. So if 600 students came for Guthrie and he was only teaching 80 of them, it's unfair. So you've got to look into these sort of variables. But I think geographic area is important. I think if you know what you want, what I love about music college is I love it when students go, I'm going to come, I'm going to get the information, I'm going to go, and I'm going to do. I don't like it personally when people use music colleges to go, do a music degree, not sure what they want to do, stay on, do a PG cert, maybe I'll become a teacher. If you want to be a teacher, don't go to music college. That doesn't make any sense to me. Go and get a teacher's degree and do that. So it's a big, big question, and I think the biggest thing for me is, why are you going to music college? If you are going to music college to get a degree, there are cheaper ways of getting getting a degree. If you are going to music college because you want the networking and you want someone to help you with your career, that is a good reason. However, you need to know what it is you're going for so that you can walk in on day one and you can announce to the teachers and the faculty and everybody, this is who I am and this is where I'm going, and your job is to help me get there. How are you going to do that? And you get that as your plan. So as for which college is best, that's a very difficult question because every college has got a pro and has got a con, and there are some absolutely incredible teachers in some of these colleges. So, and they're, you know, it's a bit like a football team where there isn't a perfect one. You know, there isn't one which has all the best teachers. They're all kind of spread around due to where they live and what they teach. So, but those are my feelings about music college. I wouldn't go for the sake of going to music college because, you know, if you spent the 20-odd thousand pounds or 30,000, I think it's £9,000 a year to do a music degree. If you're going to do 3 years, that's 30 grand plus living expenses. That's a lot of one-to-one tuition, you know, and that's a lot of money you can spend on making an album. Or that's a lot of money you can spend on making content to build your audience. So if you're going to go, you need to make sure that you're going to get the most out of that college and who is going to help you with from a mentoring side at that college.
And would you say the same for picking a course, just making sure that you know exactly who you are and what you want before choosing a course, same kind of advice?
Yeah, absolutely, because music's not something that many people fall into. It's not something that people just went, yeah, just sort of happens, just be a phenomenal guitarist and happen to land an amazing gig and get paid to do it. It doesn't happen very often. It takes a lot of hard work and determination, and you are fighting a lot of people for it. So when it comes to courses, you know, make these decisions on where you want to be. So for example, if you play guitar and you play bass, those are two very different courses. If you say, I'm going to go down the bass course because there's a lot more work for bass players, that's a good reason. If you just say, yeah, but who wants to be a bass player? Well, there's your other reason. But, you know, this idea of, I like music and I'm a musician, I'm going to go to music college because that'll be a fun thing to do. For me, there's too much on the line and it's too expensive. So the more focus you can have on exactly what you want to achieve with your career, for me, the more you'll get out of music college.
Okay, cool. So this last question is from Elliot Barron. It's quite a biggie, so we'll break it down a bit. He says, "Hi Damien, loving your content. Your tips are really helpful, and my mates. Your tips are really helping myself and my mates in our band. What's your opinion on whether signing to a record label is actually still the best route to go down or not in 2017? Would it be better to have a PR team from maybe a media company helping instead? What are the pros and cons of signing a deal? And finally, what's a good record deal?"
Right, so
the first question, was sort of, should artists sign record deals in 2017 or DIY or even hire a PR team? That kind of thing.
Okay, so yeah, there's lots of information that we can go through here, and what we'll do is, I like that, we'll break it down and then we can put into individual answers and questions. So the first one is, should artists sign record deals in 2017? And we'll probably cross over a little bit, because should they? Yeah, if it's the right deal for you, absolutely right. I mean, I would liken a record deal very much to a football team. So you get all different sizes of record companies, everything, and same thing with football teams. Everything in this country from Accrington Stanley, who are they? Right the way through to, you know, Man United or Chelsea or Man City, the big ones, and everything in between, and people who've got tiny little home labels that they've started because they've got a little home studio in their house, right the way through to, you know, Sony Music, which is going to have a big backing. And so should you sign a record deal? Well, it depends what record deal's on the table. It depends who's offering it, and depends what you get out of it. I think the big thing for me is not focusing on the record deal, focusing on the career and what's going to happen and how you're going to build your audience so that you can sell records. And then when someone comes along and says, we like what you do, we want to be a part of this, at that point, it can be someone who can help you. Because I feel like there are a lot of pros and cons with every label, and I think that's the second question. The pros and cons of signing a label, well, it depends. So for example, likening it to a football team, for example, if you are, you know, a 17, 18-year-old kid and you are great in your local area, playing football and scoring lots and loads of goals, and then all of a sudden Man United spot you and say, wow, this is fantastic. Now that could be the start of you being one of the greatest players of all time, because you could go to Man United, you could get in the first team, and you could just tear it up, score loads of goals, and just be a legend and earn millions of pounds and stuff. However, you're also going to Man United, where they've got loads and loads of amazing players and loads of money. So there's also a good chance that you can go there, sit on the bench for a year, nothing could happen, and it's effectively end of your career from that point, and then you have to go back down and start all over again. So I think when it comes to labels, the plus of a major label is they have got financial backing, and it's very, very difficult when you are in a band or you are an artist. And I am not saying don't sign to a label, but I'm saying you should build your audience, and if they come along, then join up and see what's on the table. But I can tell you something is, when Mr. EMI comes knocking on your door, it's very difficult to say no, because when they say, look, we can put money into this, we can make a record at this big studio, and we can bring this producer in, and we've got links with Radio 1, and we've got links with all of these magazines, and we've got an in-house PR team. And by the way, do you know that we own 4 out of the major playlists on Spotify that we will insert your music to, which will be instant success on those playlists? It's very difficult not to have your head turned by those things. What I would say is the cons are, in order to get that, you are going to sign away more of your life, as it were, more of your royalties. If you are going to go into Abbey Road Studios or Metropolis Studios or Air Studios, it's going to cost a lot of money. If it's going to cost a lot of money, where's the money going to come from? It's going to come from your record sales. It's going to come from your merchandise. It's going to come from probably your live shows. Now, the difference between a major label and an indie label is kind of, you're talking on a football term, instead of Man United, you're talking probably Championship. So you're talking the next level down, where they're saying, look, we really, really want you, so therefore we're going to give you a slightly different deal, because we can't just throw you straight into Radio 1. We can't throw you into these big playlists. So therefore, they're going to try and coax you with more freedom. So when you are in control, or when you've got a small team, that is a big part of it. Having a team that you're working together on stuff. With a major label, there's a big turnaround with major labels quite fast. So all of a sudden, someone might go, and the next person comes in, they might not like your band. You might get shelved and nothing might happen. So there's all of these options. And the thing with the smaller the label, the quicker it is to turn around. You know, in business terms, there's a thing of a business phrase of turning around a Titanic. When a business gets to a certain size, in order to make decisions and change direction, like the bigger the ship, the harder it is and the longer it takes to turn around and make these decisions, because everything's got to go through some kind of sort of forum or group. The album cover, you know, when you're in a band, you can just go through your phone and go, there's the album cover, and everyone goes, great, and out it goes. When you're in a major label, I mean, it's going to go through just loads and loads of people, and everyone's got their opinions, and everyone's trying plan A and plan B and plan C. So everything takes a lot longer and costs a lot more money. So it is very difficult to turn down a major label, because I see it all the time with bands. But at the same point, if you are building an audience, if you are making something and the audience is saying, I want to buy your album when it comes out, and there's enough people making noise to that effect, you You are in control. And I think that is the key when it comes to whether you should or shouldn't sign a record deal in 2017. I think we are in a time now where bands and musicians have control, because they can say, you can see my stuff's working. You can see how many people I've got on my Facebook, on my YouTube, on my Twitter. You can see how many people are engaging with me, how many people actually want to buy this record. So you can do the maths. Then you can invest some money into it, and you can put them on Radio 1, but you can see that this is working. That does give you more control than say 20 or 30 years ago, where you'd say, well, it works in my little town. How is this then going to work on a national or international level? So there's so many things that it takes into account.
So to sort of sum that up, so you're kind of saying the best thing to do really is to kind of do the hard graft and build your audience first before trying to look for record deals, so that you've got the following, and then you can kind of drive a harder bargain and say, I've got more control.
Yes, and I would go as far as to say that's not just the way, that's the only way to do it now, because the industry is set up like it, because the music industry is an industry. And so one thing that I would add to that, because it says, what is a good record deal? That's a very difficult question. What's a good record deal? What is a good record deal for you? Well, right now, with your band, for example, it could be that any record deal is a good record deal for you, because it depends on where you're at. All of a sudden, if you know that you can sell 20,000 copies of an album, and then someone comes along and says, we'll invest £10,000 into your band, then you're going to say, well, hang on a minute. I'm not gonna. That's not a good deal for me. So it all depends on where you're at. But one thing that's very, very important is the music industry is an industry. And so what happens with musicians is they go, and I've seen this so many times, they go into this kind of this machine, major labels especially, but high-end indies as well. Then they come out the other end and they haven't sold the records, or they've been dropped, and all of a sudden it's like, fuck the music industry. And it's like, no, not fuck the music industry, fuck you. You fucked it up because you didn't learn the music industry. What you did is you handed the music industry your career, and they handed it back to you, and you just got fed up with it and just went, you fucked my career up. If you know the music industry, if you understand it, and that's what this channel is all about, understanding strategies, understanding the music industry, so you can be in control, so that when someone knocks on your door and says, I'm prepared to do but I want this in return, you can make those decisions and decide whether it's a good idea for you. And then it's, you have to remember that as a musician or in a band, it's a business. Whether you like it or whether you don't like it, music is a product. And therefore, whether you like it or not, that's the industry that we're in. We're in a business and a music industry. Therefore, music industry wants to invest money to make money. Music industry isn't just going to give you money because it likes your music and just say, do what you like. So it has to make the money back, and it is an industry. So the more you understand about the music industry, the more you understand about business, the easier it is then for you to decide whether something is a good or not a good deal. And that's your job, is to build an audience. Just like if you make mugs, then you're building a product so that you can sell that product, and then you're going to advertise your product and market that product. So I think a very big part of this is understanding the music industry, understanding so that whilst you're going through it, so that you're not coming out the end of it and you're fucked and need to go get a job, but you can just always take it to the next level and the next level and the next level.
So to kind of summarise like the answer to kind of all of those questions, I think you're kind of saying the best thing to do is to sort of know what you want, and to build on that, and then to kind of just become educated and make sure you know what you're getting yourselves into when you sign onto a deal. Yeah,
because there's always going to be little bits of small print, not because people are trying to rip you off, but because people just want to make sure that if they're putting money in, if I'm going to invest £10,000 in you, all I want to know is, am I going to get my £10,000 back, and am I going to get a bit more? And so if I say, well, I just don't know if you're going to sell albums, but I know you have a really good live show, so I want 50% of your live tickets. That's just a business decision. Whether you say, fuck you, man, my live show brings in this much money, then it's up to you. And when it comes to all of those decisions, that isn't the point where you go to a lawyer, not someone like me who just goes, I can give you advice and strategies. That's where you go to a lawyer to say, is this a good deal, or am I getting ripped off? And it's a lawyer's job to go through it then and just say, do you know what? But all of that is way, way down the line. And the first step is always going to be, I'm going to make this whether you like this or not. And if you're going to come on board, great. And as soon as you're focusing away from the music industry and you're focusing on your audience and you're focusing on growing your business, because as a musician and as a band, you are a business. So therefore, you are in control of everything. And as a musician and as a band, because you are in control of everything, every responsibility is you. So if it fucks up, it's you. The label might have done something, but at the same point, you're in charge. You're driving stuff through. You have to take responsibility. So if you focus on the music industry, you're making decisions for the music industry who don't care until it works. If you're making decisions on how to look after your fans, so your fans buy your records, the music industry will care because they'll see that it works.
So essentially focus on your business.
Absolutely, and focus on your audience. And the best way of growing an audience is to look after an audience.
Cool. Well, I think that's a good note to end on. That's the end of our questions.
Hooray! Another week. It's brilliant. Thank you so much for watching. So if you've got any questions, Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat, Facebook, hashtag AskDamo. Wednesdays, 7 p.m. is Facebook Live. So if you want to just come and chat and hang out, bit of a community, chat about some music industry stuff live, then you can do that with me for 30, 40 minutes on Facebook, which is facebook.com/damiankeyes. Otherwise, just come and be a part of my journey on all the rest of the stuff. YouTube's getting a lot more content than Facebook at the moment. And this week, if you want to get hold of me, I would say probably the best way musicians are getting hold of me is Twitter and Snapchat. It's probably the quickest way of getting replies. So otherwise, have a great week, and we'll see you again next week, and I'll see you tomorrow. Peace.